Hi there, everybody. I just want to touch base with everybody in regards to the way I set up my Minelab ETRAC. This setup that I'm going to show you is to be utilized with the stock Pro coil and also the 6x8 SEF coil as well. I've experimented for many years with this unit under many different conditions, and um, I find that these settings are the best settings to provide the best sensitivity for small silver targets, most importantly coins, and also the best depth as well on small items. Um, these two coils that I've mentioned, the Pro coil and the SEF, I find also provide the best separation amongst iron as well. Also utilizing these settings. So the settings I don't adjust. I just set them and forget them for the most part. So let's get started. I'm going to start by turning the unit on. And I'm going to turn the back light on as well so you can see exactly what's going on. I've turned the manual sensitivity down to 3. That just avoids chatter as I'm inside at this time. So that's the pattern I use. It's pretty much, and I'm in Canada, so that's pretty much a blocked out area. I believe down to 17, and then right along the center there takes care of the large cents over to the nickels as well. So let's just press the menu button here. Let's go back to sensitivity. I always put it in manual. You get much better depth in the auto level, +3. In regards to the threshold, this is with headphones as well. I keep it at 16. I've experimented at a few different levels. 16 seems to be the best level for me. I don't have any issues with hearing or anything like that, so that works for me. Volume limit, always 30. Volume gain is something that I've experimented with in different environments at different levels. I find that the 23 is great for picking up, for enhancing the small targets at depth without being too much of an overkill on the sound, and also not low enough where it's too low. So combined with all of those 3 things, the threshold level at 16, the limit at 30, the volume gain at 23, 23 is the best for me. And once again, I don't have any issues with hearing or anything else. Response, I've experimented with it with all 4 different responses for this. You've got the normal, long sound, smooth, and pitch hold. Pitch hold I've tried. It's not too bad, but I find the normal is the best for me. It's less complicated. And ultimately, if you think about it at the end of the day, as long as all the other settings are good, you're going to get your sensitivity and you want your depth. There's not much more that you need to do. So I keep my response at normal. Tone ID, multi at all times. I like to hear all the different sounds coming from the soil. It helps me to distinguish what signals are what. Sounds conductive. That's standard with most units. There is a Ferris sound setting that quite a few people use, but for myself, it's something you can tweak, but I find the conductive is just as good as anything else. The variability, 30. Limits is 30 as well. I keep those as they are at all times. Nothing there changes. Let's go back up to the top as well. Recovery deep and fast. These are 2 settings that so many people have tried to play with and set up in different ways to get better responses. I find the recovery deep permits the detector to pick up targets at depth and also report back better target IDs. Now they do say that the detector responds a little slower, but in the big scope of things, slower, to me, I found no difference in the way it responds. We might be talking about fractions here in regards to response time. So I find the recovery deep on is better for deep targets and at depth, and it gives more accurate target IDs. The recovery fast, I keep that off. In really busy areas, the targets I find respond much quicker in off, not sharper, just quicker. But I find with that off and the recovery deep on, the on gives me more stable IDs, targets at depth, and ones that aren't as deep either. It still separates the same to me. I don't see any difference in that. Overall, I find I get better performance with this setting. Trash density is high. I find that great as well in regards to compensating for the recovery fast. Recovery fast, once again, is great for good targets mixed in with bad targets. If you have it off, as I said, it doesn't respond as quickly, and we're talking just a very, very minute differences here, but the trash density high compensates for the off. So I find those two work great, and with the deep on, better target IDs. Difficult, same again, I find that works best than the neutral. So I keep that as difficult. I don't see any difference in that. Noise cancel is one of those things, again, that I have experimented with. All different noise cancels. Some people say that a low noise cancel brings better sensitivity to highly conductive targets like silver. And I've also seen people just do it manually, which is standard, I think, in the manual for this detector. And I've also read that 11 is what people set it on as well. I have experimented with all noise channels here, and I've done air tests and ground tests. The noise cancel setting at 11, which is the highest, I found on the 6x8 coil, it gave me 2 extra inches in depth. Now that's on an air test, but if it gives me a 2 extra inches in air, so it's still analyzing whatever's in between the target and the coil, in ground we're dealing with a different matrix than the air, but based on that air test extra 2 inches, it should give me an extra kick up in the depth at the 11 noise cancel and in the ground as well. The lower the number with the same test, same coil, silver dime, noise cancel 1, gave me less depth. So I keep that at 11 now, and it's never given me any issues at any of my sites. I've never had any interference that affects the unit, but based on those tests that I did with that, it gives me more depth, and you could say also more sensitivity based on the fact that it gives me more depth. So recovery deep on, recovery fast off, trash density high offsets recovery fast off. Ground is difficult, no change, noise cancel 11, kicks up the sensitivity a little bit, I find, and allows me to detect targets a little bit deeper with less interference. Last one is personal preferences. Contrast 15, I've experimented with that one as well, different lighting conditions. 15 for me, I don't have any issues with my eyes. I don't wear glasses or anything. 15 seems to be spot on with that. I still have to move around sometimes to get a more clear visibility on the screen. based on that 15 setting. So 15 is the best for me. Pinpoint mode, normal. This stuff is just personal preference. I don't look at all, well, showing the sensitivity I have on. As I said, I detect in manual at all times. I do not use the auto +3 anymore because I have experimented with those two settings and there is quite a significant increase in depth using manual sensitivity. So I keep that on so I can see everything that's going on the screen. I keep that off. Don't do any of that stuff. Let's press detect. This is the sensitivity setting. I run this pretty high. I've had this one here on the right hand side. That is the suggested suggested auto sensitivity for the unit. The unit does its own calculations and tells you where you should set it. I don't follow that. I increase my sensitivity higher. I've had sensitivity up almost 3/4 to the top, and I've had this one 1/4 down here, and I've had no issues with falsing or anything like that. If you're in a site, you're listening to certain tones, as long as it's repetitive, the tones are, you move around the target, they repeat themselves, I don't worry too much about that. I know I'm maintaining my depth. I know it's saying that, you know, I should lower it. I don't touch it. So I leave that as it is. I'll just show you quickly in regards to my programs. I have a few different ones here. That one there is a little bit more precise. If I don't want to dig a ton of targets and I just want to cherry pick, I go into that one. Mode 2 here opens it right up. Mode 3, that's a pretty tight pattern there. That's pretty much just going along and listening for any sort of repetitive signal that hits within that area. I find that's really good with depth too. If you get really deep silver targets and you're scanning along, you barely get any signals, but you get an audible signal in that program that's pretty tight there. You know, you swing it one way, it goes off, and then not another, and then it goes. Even if it's really sketchy, I dig it. Because obviously there's something there registering in those areas there, which I have programmed to silver. There's been many times I've dug really deep silver targets with a really tight pattern like that. So I'm not listening at every other target that I'm going over. I'm cherry picking. I'm listening for the deep stuff, and as we go back to where I had deep on to get more accurate target IDs for deep targets, that's going to help in a tight pattern like that as well. That one opens it up a little bit more. As you can see, I got tight, I got a little bit more openness there, and again, so on. And those are my patterns that I use there. So, you know, as I said, that's what I use. I use the large icon numbers as well rather than the little small ones up there. Again, based on the contrast, and sometimes it's hard to see the screen on the E-Trac based on your lighting conditions. The bigger numbers I like to look at. I like to go by sound too, so I open that up so it's like that. I think that's about it. There's really nothing else that I don't use the combine feature at all. Everything is pretty much set. I have this program set for all of my user modes. So it doesn't matter which one I turn on, it's ready to go. I don't worry about the noise cancel. I have it at 11. I don't get any interference from anything, and I just go. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I've given you some information here that you can benefit from. In the next month or so, I think I'm gonna upgrade the stock coil. I know some people say it's an awesome coil, and it is awesome. I have found some really deep stuff with this thing that has just even shocked me. But I'm looking at the Nell Thunder based on the same width as the stock coil, except I'm looking at 14.5 inches extra from the E-Trac stock. I think it's got great separation as well. It's going to give me a little bit better coverage. It just depends whether I have to adjust my settings or if there's going to be some issues with it in regards to everything else. But I think it's worth the try. I get an extra 5 inches length with that in coverage, so I'll let you know if I get that coil, and we'll get out in the field and we'll do some tests with all three coils: the 6x8, the 11 Pro, and the Thunder. So for now, I hope you enjoyed the video. You can like my Facebook page, SIGDIG, SIGDIG, and subscribe to the video, and I hope you enjoyed it. So next time, maybe we'll see you in the field. Thanks.